And still the possibility of that over the next couple of hours. Rain chances will sit at around 30 to 40%. Very typical activity for the time of year. But after sunset, once we lose that daytime heating, the bulk of the activity should start to settle down. Temperatures heading for the 70s overnight tonight, mid to upper 70s. That's where we'll start the day tomorrow. Likely going to see some scattered showers and storms along the immediate coastline. First thing in the morning, some of that activity builds inland through the mid and late morning hours. That's probably where we are going to see our highest rain chances at around 40%, and then widely scattered activity tomorrow afternoon, again with your rain chances pegged at around 40%. 93 will be your projected high. And we are going to have the possibility to continue to see scattered storms Sunday through about Tuesday of next week, but then thereafter a change in the pattern. We're going to be turning drier and slightly hotter. We'll talk the details and my full weather forecast. It's going to be coming up in just a bit.
Well, summer means traveling for many, which also means the demand for passports increases. According to the State Department, they've received 400 to 500,000 applications every week. To help with the process, the department is offering tips for travelers. The routine passport process is 10 to 13 weeks. For the time for an expedited passport is 7 to 9. Now, if it's 30 days from your travel date and you haven't received your passport, continue to monitor your application. That's what the State Department says. If you haven't received your passport 2 weeks before your traveling date, contact them. If it can't be found, the next step would be setting up an appointment at the nearest passport service center, like the one in New Orleans. If you haven't applied for your passport and it's 2 weeks from your travel date, it's too late to apply. You should call the Department of State to see if possibly anything can be done. To see the guidelines used to prioritize passport paperwork, we have a link in this story at KATC.com. UL Lafayette has over $44 million for renovating existing buildings and building new labs and facilities. The money was signed off on last month for state-funded capital projects. The bulk of that funding will go toward the construction of a kinesiology, hospitality management, and athletic administration complexes. The University of Louisiana system as a whole took home most of the funding. Now, the large bulk of that funding that was given to higher education for construction, which was about $193 million spread across its 9 universities. In efforts to make the PhD program at LSU more competitive, graduate assistants will soon be getting a $23,000 stipend along with a discount on health care. $8 million was set aside in the recent legislative session. Starting in the fall, LSU will cover 75% of health insurance premium cost for grad students out of its own budget for qualifying students.
A Lafayette composer is now up for an International Score Award. Andrew Morgan Smith has been longlisted for his score for the movie Bunker. The public will vote to decide which 5 people will move on to the final nominations. You can see the address to vote there at the bottom of your screen. We've also linked it over at KATC.com. The 5 finalists will have their music performed at a concert in Europe. And one of the main...
So for every score, I try to find that angle of the thing that makes it unique for me and interesting for me, so that I always can find a fresh approach to doing what I'm doing. On Bunker, it happened to be really exploiting kind of like, we have the classic sound of this orchestra, but then we have these more mangled elements on top of it, which are a lot of the piano deconstruction sound.
Happening now in New Iberia, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is hosting its Equine Clinic Benefit. You can head over to the Sugarina from now until 8 to catch some of the fun. And if you can't make it out there tonight, there's another equine event happening tomorrow. There will be masters and beginners youth classes. Each ride is $15, and all proceeds will benefit children at St. Jude. Still ahead here at 6 o'clock, a teenager is in critical condition after a tree fell on him in Jackson Square. We'll have more from New Orleans coming up in State News.
And a pretty typical weekend weather-wise in Acadiana. Hot, humid conditions, the prospects of a few scattered showers and storms, but eventually the pattern turning drier and hotter, especially as next week wears on. We'll talk the numbers and I'll have the complete Truvy forecast coming up after the break.
From the KATC Weather Lab, here's Bradley's forecast.
Welcome back. Well, near normal weather conditions will persist through the course of the weekend and at least through early next week. But then thereafter, it looks like we're going to see a drier and hotter pattern take hold here across Acadiana. So we'll take a look at the extended forecast in just a second. First, let's get a check of the upper level pattern, and rigidified pressure is planted off to our west. And it's just far enough to the west to where it's not really having an impact on our weather here locally. And for us, still dealing with a general weakness in the atmosphere. atmosphere in the upper levels and at the surface, a good amount of low-level moisture. So we have been able to generate at least a few showers and storms. Not everyone has gotten wet over the past couple of days, but surely those thunder showers have been lurking around the area. Good amount of tropical moisture here sitting out in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's been kind of meandering around, if anything, slowly drifting to the north, providing the cloud cover, and that'll probably stick around at least for another day. But again, also the prospects of a few showers and storms, which we have seen late this afternoon across portions of Acadiana. An outflow boundary, or a couple of those outflow boundaries, helped to generate activity in Lafayette, Upper St. Martin Parish over the past half an hour to an hour. But most of this activity weakening. Why? Well, the outflow boundary, you can see here on the loop, moving away from this particular cell. So that indicates that the storm is on a weakening trend. And sure enough, just some light showers in and around Cecilia, the Arnaville area. Meanwhile, further to the north, isolated activity as we get into northern St. Landry Parish, but also, again, that outflow that was associated with that storm further to the south on a northward trajectory. So we'll have to see if this helps to generate additional activity over the next several minutes. But bottom line, not everyone's going to get wet this evening, but still the possibility of a few thunder showers. Will hold rain chances at around 30%. Otherwise, we settle down after sunset. Should be a quiet night ahead. Temperatures heading for the 70s, mid to upper 70s is where we'll start the day tomorrow. And again, I think we'll see scattered showers and storms develop along the immediate coastline first thing tomorrow morning. Try to lift northward through the morning hours. That could be when we see our highest rain chances. Models have been indicating that here. So got rain chances pegged at around 40%, but at the very least, it looks like this disturbance of sorts is going to increase the cloud cover. So that'll help keep our temperatures upper 80s to lower 90s into tomorrow afternoon. If we do see activity in the morning, that'll likely help to stabilize the atmosphere. So we'll say widely scattered showers and storms tomorrow afternoon, meaning not a great deal of coverage, but still some thunder showers lurking around at around 30 to 40%, but certainly not going to be raining all day long. Sunday starts out upper 70s and in a partly cloudy sky Sunday afternoon, but once we get some daytime heating, the sea breeze kicks in. I do think we'll see probably a slightly better scattering of some afternoon showers and storms. Rain chances at around 50 to 60%. And that's the way it's going to go Monday into Tuesday before rain chances will be on their way down. Tropics pretty quiet, nothing really going on across the tropical Atlantic. Notice the tropical moisture here across the Gulf of Mexico, and that's going to keep us somewhat unsettled throughout the next couple of days. Temperature wise, mid to upper 70s. That's where we start the day tomorrow. Most of us push into the lower 90s tomorrow afternoon under a partly to mostly cloudy sky. Rain chances tapering off after sunset tonight, and again tomorrow we're in the widely scattered territory. What does that mean? Well, rain chances 30 to 40% throughout the day, which is pretty much right where they should be for the time of year. 76 will be your projected low tonight. Once those showers come to an end this evening, should be a quiet night ahead. And then for the day tomorrow, pretty typical early July weather pattern. 93 your projected high, with about a 30 to 40% chance for those scattered showers and storms. Southerly winds will come in at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Let's advance it forward here into the 10-day forecast. We'll maintain that 40 to 50% rain chance through the weekend, 50 to 60 Monday into Tuesday, before rain chances gradually go down for the middle and latter parts of next week. The heat's going to be cranking up as well, with highs eventually returning to the mid and upper 90s. Well, that's a look at this. That's a look at weather for now, but stay with us. We're going to have more news coming up after the break.
We start state news in New Orleans, where a teenager is in critical condition after a tree fell on him in Jackson Square. It's unclear what caused the branch to fall. New Orleans police are investigating. The 16-year-old was standing up with a group when the branch broke. People have commented on social media saying bystanders were pulling people from underneath that branch. The 16-year-old, again, is in critical condition tonight.
The plan to have stricter catch limits for redfish is advancing to public comment and an oversight committee at the state legislature. This after the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries voted to reduce catch limit to 3 per day. The new goals of the newly proposed limits are aimed at replenishing the plummeting stock. Redfish are in the process of being overfished if no change occurs. Biologists say there are a number of causes, including Louisiana's disappearing coastlines. The Biden administration is trying to pause a recent court order that limits how administration officials can contact social media sites. A motion filed yesterday. The government attorneys say limiting executive branch communications with social media firms could cause grave harm. Earlier this week, a federal judge here in Louisiana ruled that several federal agencies and administration officials can only contact the companies about criminal activity, national security threats, and posts that mislead people about voting requirements and procedures. The administration's attorneys call the injunction too broad. Also facing legal action is the new social media app Threads. Twitter threatened legal action and accused Meta of stealing trade secrets when it hired former employees to help develop Threads. However, Meta claims no one on the Threads engineering team used to work at Twitter. According to Meta, the company's new social media site had more than 50 million signups since launching on Wednesday. Stay with us, everybody. Sports is coming up right after this break.
It's time for sports with KATC Sports Director Seth Lewis.
The New Orleans Pelicans opened Summer League play against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Dyson Daniels began the action. Swiper no swiping, Pels on the board first. Plays later, welcome to the NBA Jordan Hawkins. He drops a triple for the three. NOLA now up 6-2. Skipping to the third, Pels down by 7. Williams shoots an air ball, but E.J. Liddell takes off down to the court. He goes untouched to the hoop to keep the Pels in it. They trail 56-51, but they could not pull it out as the Pels fall 102-88.
For me, it feels surreal, obviously, playing for the Pels. Get to play for the home team. But, man, it's about to be my 6 years as a pro. And the first time having, like, a real opportunity in NBA Summer League is like, wow. Like, I'm doing something right overseas.
In only 2 years at UL, guard Frank Bartley certainly left his mark. He's a part of the 1,000-point club with the Cajuns. He was a two-time All-Sun Belt selection, and in 2018, he was named the Louisiana Player of the Year by the LSWA. Now, after a long wait, he's getting his shot with the NBA. Bartley is one of the 13 members of the Pelicans Summer League